Hey there, I am Pronger Faulkner, for those who don't know me, and I'm here with Doreen Stroud to talk about our collaboration book called Absolute Will, which was released in October 2021. Thank you for being here, Doreen.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and honored to be part of this collaboration.
Awesome. So the idea for this collaboration came to me earlier this year, actually back in January, as I was still working on my first book. And I kept allowing myself to get distracted by other things on my to-do list, one of which was trying to come up with a good way to fundraise for a project that my fiance Mike and I want to do in Nicaragua. Eventually, months later, the urge to create an inspirational collaboration got so strong that I knew I needed to get going on it. I really wanted women from as many countries as possible from around the world to make this a global effort of inspiring others, and I wanted every story to have a health and willpower aspect to it. So when the idea hit me that a book collaboration would be a perfect way to fundraise, this book quickly moved up to my #1 priority to make it happen before the end of the year. All of the profits from the author entry fees and the sales through the first month of our launch are going towards Mike and I building a house for a family in Nicaragua who doesn't have a home of their own. And I'm so thrilled that we have 21 authors in this book, Doreen and me and 19 other amazing women from 7 countries around the world. Our authors are from Canada, the United Kingdom, the United Arab Emirates, the United States, Australia, South Africa, and Bulgaria. And together we are sharing our personal, vulnerable, insightful, true stories of willpower when facing emotional and mental health crises, physical injuries, and disease. Now, this book is self-published and self-promoted by all of our authors, not done through a traditional publishing house. It's been a grassroots effort, which makes what we've done with it so far all the more incredible. My first book became a bestseller in 2 categories, so I was pretty sure that we could do it with Absolute Will, especially after I tweaked some of my marketing strategies, plus the fact that we would have a built-in book launch team with all 21 of us sharing about it. What I didn't expect, though, was that we would hit #1 bestseller in 9 categories across 3 countries, Canada, the US, and Australia. And I also didn't expect, none of us expected, to also hit #1 new release in 31 categories across 4 countries, Canada, the US, Australia, and the UK. So that's 40 top spots. And this has just been in the first few weeks after the book went live on Amazon. So the reviews so far on this book that are now coming in are that these stories are raw, real, sensitive, thought-provoking, heartwarming, life-changing, well-written, and that this book is a fantastic read. The stories are truly inspiring. Any reader can relate to these stories on some level. You feel a personal connection to each of the writer's journeys, and that this book has given so much hope to others. These are all direct quotes from the reviews on Amazon. Doreen's chapter is called Code Blue, chapter 17 in Absolute Will. Welcome, Doreen.
Thank you, Jo. Thank you for allowing me to be here. I really appreciate it.
So can you tell everyone a little bit about who you are and where you're from and what your chapter in Absolute Will is about?
Okay, well, I'm Doreen Stroud, as you mentioned earlier. I'm from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, proud Canadian, almost the geographical center of Canada. So sometimes we like to say we're the center of the universe, but we're not quite, not quite there.
And you and I are actually, I think, the closest together of all of the authors because I'm a 4-hour drive away.
Yeah. So when I drive through to go to Thunder Bay, I would like to stop in and say hi.
Absolutely.
Because I still have family and friends in Thunder Bay. I grew up there. So awesome. It's nice. It's nice to be so close to you, Jo. So yeah, thank you. My chapter is about how my journey with an autoimmune disorder also affected my mental health. So I had not only just inflammation in my body, it also happened in my brain, which caused me to, I call it my absolute crazy time. I was absolutely that like crazy. I don't want to say the word, but I was crazy. My thought processes were jumbled. My sentence structure was garbled. I had hallucinations. There was a lot of self-harm behavior that I did because I was trying to silence the scariness in my head. Now, the reason I called it Code Blue was because there were a couple of times while I was hospitalized, the one time where they called Code Blue on me. They don't call Code Blue just because a heart fails, but it's also because the oxygen levels in your blood goes below a certain amount or a certain percentage. And they called Code Blue. And that's kind of one of the last things I remember before being woken up, or before being wakened up in the ICU, attached to wires and tubes and IVs and everything. So lupus really had a huge effect on my body. So I had blood clots, I had the brain involvement. So I wanted to bring awareness to how autoimmune disorders also affect our mental health. And because it's not talked about out in the open. I mean, our doctors talk about it sometimes, but we don't know how badly it affects people unless we share our stories.
Absolutely. And I also had lupus, systemic lupus, and I even had no idea until meeting you that this particular, manifestation of lupus was even, possible. I had no idea. So I found that from a disease and medical perspective, I found that fascinating. And I was so thrilled that you reached out to be in this book, because I agree, this is something that really needs a lot more awareness, especially nowadays when people are starting to talk about mental health more so. I mean, it's still a taboo subject in a lot of ways, but to be able to bring forward this piece of autoimmune disease is so important.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. When I told my psychiatrist about it, we didn't know what was going on for so many years. I was in and out of the psychiatric hospital because of depression and suicidal ideation. So when I told my psychiatrist in 2018, after my rheumatologist told me about it, he's like, I hadn't heard of this. It's called lupus psychosis. So he said he hadn't even heard about it. So we need to bring more awareness to mental health and autoimmune disorders that are associated with mental health, or mental health associated with autoimmune disorders, because it goes both ways.
Absolutely. And now you figured out a way to get through that. And, now that you're able to tell your story, do you find that people, how are they reacting to this? And when you tell them?
Oh, people are so intrigued and they're like, wow, I had no idea, and so supportive. I've got so many friends and people who have reached out and they're like, wow, I never knew your story. And it's not something that I talk about because I was very embarrassed about my mental health, but you know what? We shouldn't be embarrassed by mental health. So yeah, there's so many people that are like, go for it. I'm so proud of you. And I'm putting out these things on Facebook and they're like, wow, that's amazing. So I'm really excited to have such as a supportive friendship circle.
That's awesome. So when you first found out about the collaboration, I mean, you touched on it a little bit already, but what made you decide to actually jump in and go for it?
I needed to get out of my comfort zone, for one thing. So I have never thought that I would ever write a book. I don't journal, I've always thought I'm not creative. And then I'm thinking, you know what? I need to tell my story because people need to know how we can get past a horrendous diagnosis. And I wanted to show people the strength that we all have. All of us women in this chapter have immense strength, or in this collaboration, have immense strength and perseverance, and show people that it is possible to recover, to heal, even though we may still have these diagnoses still, I still have it, but it's not debilitating anymore. I was able to overcome it. And I was on a whole cocktail of drugs, a whole cocktail of medications, even opioids for chronic pain. So they gave me hydromorphone for chronic pain. So, and a couple of years in, they went, oh, we just realized now that opioids for chronic pain is not very helpful. So I'm like, well, thanks, now I'm addicted. So I was able to, in the last couple of years, wean off all of my antidepressants and wean off the opioids, just with perseverance and with help from the doctor, of course, of their advice. But it feels so good to be not in that fog anymore, not that veil of just always constantly being tired, and not just that draggy feeling that we have being on all those drugs.
Wow, that's incredible. So when you were writing your chapter, writing seems to bring out different experiences for different people. So how did the actual writing process go for you? And did anything surprise you about writing your chapter?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I was very surprised. I'm like, so you gave us 2,000 words. So I'm like, yeah, there's no way I can come up with 2,000 words. And I submitted it and you come back, you're like, oh, that's 2,700 words. What? So how do I figure out how to pare it down, for one thing? And you had a lot of good questions and things to help me narrow down more of why did I feel like this, and how did you come to realize this? But it was emotional too. I mean, I had a lot of tears, and it's one thing to have it up here. It's another thing to write it down and actually see it in writing. And then when you're sending us back these copies and it's okay, read this over and answer some questions, there were just, again, tears and so emotional. And I thought, wow, I thought I had cried all of this out, but apparently not. So emotional, and just the sheer fact that, like, holy cow, I actually wrote 2,700 words.
I love that. And, there was some back and forth with sort of like the different stages of editing, which is how, any book goes. And I love how you were able to, it really feels like you focused in on what the most important parts were of that, piece of your life, without really losing anything that, of critical importance within that time frame. So I really love how, you were able to get down to the nitty gritty, but still included a lot of emotion in it, and really, give people a sense of how debilitating this was for you, because it wasn't just that you were dealing with mental health, issues and your physical issues with lupus, but I mean, this affected your children, this affected your marriage, this affected every aspect of your life. So I love how you were able to, like, as terrible as that situation was, you did such a great job of, making it into a story that is really special.
Yeah, the tough part about having this awful diagnosis was the fact that my marriage fell apart, and realizing that I was toxic in our relationship and I needed to leave. I was kind of hoping that just leaving for a year and maybe, do some marriage counseling and we can get back together. But it was both of us just decided that it wasn't going to work. And I had to take ownership of my part in my marriage failing, because there was a lot of stuff that I did. So I take ownership in that part of it. But there's always, I mean, there's three sides to every story, right? There's their side, my side, and then the truth in the middle. Because it's what we experience, and what we experience might be something completely different than the other person experienced. And also with children involved, they see one side of it as well. And so that there's their side, and there's dad's side and mom's side, and then the truth, but then they also have their side. So it's really, really difficult. So yeah, so this is also a healing journey for me, and hopefully a healing journey beginning for them as well.
That's amazing. So based on this experience, do you think that you'll write your own book in the future, or be in another collaboration at some point?
I would like to say yes. I would like to try another collaboration. I don't think I can do this on my own, because there's a lot of work that goes into publishing a book. And I really applaud you and thank you, Joe, for all the hard work that you've done. And I think being in a collaboration again is helpful for other women, other people, not just women, but of course men too. I think, yeah, I'd like to be in another collaboration just to see what's next.
So what is your top piece of advice for someone that might be thinking that they might want to become a published author?
Just go for it. Just go for it. Because I was like, I can't write a chapter, and you know what? Here I did. So if I can do it, man, you know what? Anybody can do it. It is possible, and it's so empowering. It's freeing to get all that out. So yeah, go for it. Do it.
I love that. That's awesome. So what else are you up to? What's next for you?
What's next for me is to focus on my business. So I am newly in the financial services industry. So my part, what I'd like to focus on is people who have been diagnosed with autoimmune disorders or any other kinds of diseases. For the most part, if they try to go and get some life insurance or something, the major companies can come back and say, you know what, you're uninsurable. I was told I was uninsurable, one, because of lupus, two, because of the blood clots that I've had in my lungs. But because I'm a broker and I work with so many companies, I was able to get one, life insurance, and two, critical illness insurance, which is like, you know, wow, right?
Yeah, that is wow.
Yeah. So just because you've been turned down once before doesn't mean all the doors have been closed. Keep pushing, keep looking for opportunities, find a broker, because the brokers are where they were able to get the right products and services. And I'm just really excited. I just want to be an advocate for people who are hard to insure, who've been previously told they are uninsurable. I just want to be that advocate.
That's amazing. And what a great, perspective that you will bring to your clients, because you've been there. So it's
Yes.
not just that you're a random broker, right, and trying to sell a product. You can actually, you've lived it, and you've been denied, and you've, and you can sympathize or empathize with people who are going through other autoimmune issues as well. So what a fantastic, perspective that you will bring to this role. That's awesome.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
So if you've enjoyed getting to know more about Doreen and want to connect with her, you can find her on Instagram at Doreen Stroud, and on Facebook at Doreen Stroud 1962, and Linktree Doreen STR. Doreen, thank you so much for being in this collaboration and for your time today. Your inner strength is incredible, and you're such an inspiration for courageously sharing this part of your lupus journey. And I am so honored that you chose to share your story in Absolute Will.
Thank you, Joe. It's been a pleasure, and it's been a pleasure getting to know all the other women in this collaboration.
I love that too. I feel like we're a little family now, and it's been such an amazing experience for me as well. So yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll see you later.
Okay. Bye.